The letter arrived on a Tuesday, slipped under the door of their cramped apartment like a snake sliding through a crack. Emma Hartley found it when she stumbled home at midnight, her feet aching from another double shift at Rosie's diner, her white uniform stained with coffee and grease, her tips barely enough to cover groceries. She was 19 years old, and she was drowning. Her father had died 6 months ago, cancer that ate through him faster than the treatments could fight it. The hospital bills came after, monstrous numbers that seemed to multiply overnight. 60,000 became 90. 90 became 120. The collectors called daily, their voices polite but relentless. Her mother had fled to her sisters in Nevada, broken by grief and shame. Emma's younger brother, Jamie, was 16 and still in high school, still believing life could be good again. Emma knew better. She picked up the envelope. Heavy parchment, cream-colored, sealed with dark red wax embossed with a symbol she didn't recognize. A thorned crown crossed with a rose. No return address. Just her name in elegant script, Miss Emma Rose Hartley. Inside, a single page written in the same beautiful hand. Dear Miss Hartley, I understand your family faces a debt of considerable burden. I am prepared to settle this debt in full, $127,000, in exchange for your hand in marriage. This is not a jest, nor a cruelty. I require a bride, and you require salvation. The terms are simple. You will marry me and reside at my estate for a minimum of 1 year. After that time, should you wish to leave, you may do so freely with a substantial settlement to ensure your future comfort. I am aware this proposal is unconventional. I do not expect love, only your presence and your discretion. In return, your family will never want for anything again. Should you accept, a car will arrive for you this Friday at 8 p.m. Bring only what you cherish most. Everything else will be provided. Yours, in anticipation, Nathaniel Thorne. Emma read it 3 times, her heart hammering. It had to be a scam, a sick joke. But when she called the number listed at the bottom, a woman's voice answered immediately. Thorne Estate, you must be Miss Hartley. Master Nathaniel has been expecting your call. This is insane, Emma breathed. Who is he? Why me? All will be explained when you arrive, miss. The debt payment has already been processed. Check your family's account in the morning. The money is real. The offer is real. The choice is yours. The line went dead. Emma didn't sleep that night. At dawn, she checked the online portal for her father's medical debt. The balance read 0200, paid in full. She stared at the screen until her eyes burned. Someone had paid. Someone named Nathaniel Thorne had reached into her nightmare and ended it with the stroke of a pen. But what kind of man bought a bride? Friday came too fast and too slow. Emma told Jamie she was taking a live-in job as a housekeeper for a wealthy family upstate. The lie tasted bitter. But the truth, I'm marrying a stranger to keep us afloat, felt impossible to speak aloud. At exactly 8 p.m., a black car pulled up outside their building. Not a taxi. A Bentley, sleek and dark as a hearse. The driver was a tall man in a formal suit, his pale face expressionless. Miss Hartley, I'm Vincent. I'll be driving you to the estate. Emma clutched her single suitcase, clothes, her father's watch, a photo album, and the small silver cross her grandmother had given her. Everything that mattered fit in one bag. The drive took 4 hours, winding north through forests that grew denser and darker with each mile. No streetlights, no other cars, just endless trees pressing against the road like sentinels guarding a secret. Where exactly are we going? Emma asked. Vincent's eyes flicked to the rearview mirror. Thornwood Estate. It's been in Master Nathaniel's family for a very long time. How long? A pause. Longer than you'd believe, miss. They turned onto a private road marked only by iron gates that opened soundlessly as they approached. The driveway stretched for miles through manicured grounds, past fountains and statues that looked centuries old. Then the house came into view. It wasn't a house. It was a Gothic masterpiece, a mansion of dark stone and towering spires, windows glowing with warm light against the night. Gargoyles crouched along the roofline. Ivy crawled up the walls like veins. It looked like something from another century. Another world. Vincent opened her door. Master Nathaniel is waiting in the grand hall. I'll take your belongings to your chambers. Emma stepped out, her legs unsteady. The air here felt different, cooler, heavier, charged with something she couldn't name. She walked up the marble steps, and the massive front doors opened before she could knock. A woman stood there, elegant, pale, with silver-streaked black hair pulled into a severe bun. Her eyes were dark and knowing. "Miss Hartley, I am Margot, head of household. Welcome to Thornwood." She stepped aside. "Master Nathaniel is expecting you." The entry hall was breathtaking. Vaulted ceilings painted with frescoes of stars and shadows. A grand staircase splitting in two directions, chandeliers dripping with crystals, and everywhere, portraits, dozens of them, all of the same man with dark hair and piercing eyes that seemed to follow her movement. "This way," Margot said, leading her through corridors lined with tapestries and antique furniture. They stopped before tall double doors carved with intricate patterns, thorns and roses intertwined. Margot knocked once. A voice from within said, "Enter." Emma's heart hammered as the doors opened. The room beyond was a library, floor-to-ceiling shelves packed with ancient books, a fireplace large enough to stand in, furniture that looked both priceless and comfortable. And standing by the window, silhouetted against the moonlight, was a man. He turned. Emma's breath caught. Nathaniel Thorne was beautiful in a way that didn't seem entirely human. Tall and lean, with sharp cheekbones and a strong jaw. Dark hair fell just past his collar, and his eyes, God, his eyes, were a shade of amber that seemed to glow in the firelight. He wore a black suit perfectly tailored, moving with a grace that reminded Emma of predators in nature documentaries. "Emma Hartley," he said, his voice deep and cultured, with an accent she couldn't quite place. British maybe, but older. "Thank you for coming. Did I have a choice?" The words came out sharper than she intended. His lips curved slightly. "You always have a choice. The debt is paid regardless of your decision tonight. You could walk out that door and you'd owe me nothing. Then why am I here? Because you're curious, and because you're brave enough to face the unknown rather than run from it." He gestured to a chair. "Please, sit. We should talk before the ceremony." "Ceremony?" Emma remained standing. "You mean the wedding? We're doing that tonight?" The terms were clear. Marriage in exchange for your family's freedom. Nathaniel moved closer, and Emma noticed he made no sound when he walked, no footsteps, no rustle of fabric. "I know this is overwhelming. I know you're frightened. But I give you my word. You will not be harmed under this roof. You will be treated with respect. Your wishes will be honored. Accept the wish not to marry a stranger? Accept that. For now." His amber eyes held hers. "Ask me anything, Emma. I'll answer truthfully." 1,000 questions crowded her mind. She picked the most important one. Why me? Out of all the women in the world, why choose me? Nathaniel was quiet for a moment. "Because you remind me of someone I lost a very long time ago, and because you have a strength in you that most people never find. I saw it in the way you've carried your family's burden without breaking. That kind of strength is rare. You've been watching me? I've been aware of you, yes. When I learned of your father's illness, of the debt crushing your family, I saw an opportunity that would benefit us both." He moved to a desk and picked up a small wooden box. "This is for you, a wedding gift." The box was carved from dark wood, intricate patterns etched into its surface, the same thorns and roses from the door. It was locked with a silver clasp. "What's inside?" Emma asked. "Something you'll understand when the time is right. Don't open it until then." He set it on the table between them. "Trust your instinct. You'll know the moment." Before Emma could respond, Margot appeared in the doorway. "Sir, the witnesses have arrived. The officiant is ready." Nathaniel nodded. "Then let us begin." The ceremony took place in a candlelit chapel within the estate. Small, intimate, far more beautiful than Emma had expected. Stained glass windows depicted scenes she didn't recognize, figures in shadow and light. An elderly man in formal robes stood before an altar, holding an ancient book. 4 witnesses stood to the side, all pale, all eerily beautiful, all watching Emma with expressions ranging from curiosity to barely concealed hostility. "They're my coven," Nathaniel murmured as they walked down the aisle together. My family. Coven. The word sent chills down Emma's spine. The ceremony was brief. The officiant spoke in Latin, then English. Emma repeated vows she barely heard, her voice mechanical. Nathaniel's responses were steady, measured, as if he'd done this 1,000 times before. When it came time for rings, Nathaniel produced 2 bands, one gold, one silver. Both were engraved with symbols that matched the box. "With this ring, I bind myself to you," he said, sliding the gold band onto her finger. It fit perfectly. "For 1 year, or for eternity. The choice will always be yours." Emma's hands shook as she placed the silver ring on his finger. "With this ring, I accept. Then by the old laws and the new, I pronounce you bound." The officiant closed his book. "What has been joined tonight may not be broken save by mutual will." The witnesses applauded politely. One of them, a blonde woman with ice blue eyes, smiled in a way that didn't reach her face. "Welcome to the family, Emma. I do hope you survive it." Nathaniel's hand tightened slightly on Emma's. "That will be all, Vivian. Thank you for witnessing." As the guests filed out, Emma stood frozen in the chapel, a gold ring heavy on her finger, married to a man she'd met an hour ago. "Come," Nathaniel said gently. "I'll show you to your chambers. You must be exhausted." He led her through more corridors, up the grand staircase, to a suite of rooms that looked like something from a palace. A bedroom with a 4-poster bed draped in silk, a sitting room with a fireplace already burning, a bathroom with a clawfoot tub and fixtures that looked antique but functioned perfectly. "These are your private rooms," Nathaniel said. "No one enters without your permission, not even me." Emma turned to him. "Where do you sleep?" "I don't." He said it so simply, so matter-of-factly, that it took a moment for the words to register. "What?" Nathaniel moved to the window, his back to her. "I haven't slept in 300 years, Emma. I don't need to." The world tilted. 300? "I am what your stories call a vampire." He turned, and in the moonlight streaming through the window, Emma saw his eyes flash with an inhuman gleam. "I am the king of the oldest coven in the northern territories. I have lived through plagues and wars and the rise and fall of empires. And tonight, you became my queen." Emma's knees gave out. She collapsed into a chair, her mind reeling. "This is insane. Vampires aren't real. They're legends? Myths?" Nathaniel smiled sadly. "I assure you, we are very real. And you, Emma Hartley, have just married the most dangerous one of all." He moved closer, crouching before her chair so they were eye level. "But I meant what I said. You will not be harmed. I do not feed on unwilling humans. I have not killed an innocent in 2 centuries. I am not the monster your stories describe." "Then what are you?" Emma whispered. "Lonely," he said simply. "I am a king without a queen, a leader without an equal. For 300 years, I've ruled alone, and it has hollowed me out. When I saw you, your strength, your resilience, I thought perhaps you could fill that void, or at least help me remember what it feels like to be something other than empty." Tears burned Emma's eyes. "You should have told me. Before I agreed. Before I—" "Would you have believed me? Would you have come?" Nathaniel stood. "I gave you a choice within the constraints of what was possible. The debt is still paid. You may still leave when the year ends. But I am asking you, begging you, to stay, to give me a chance to prove I am not a monster." He moved to the door. "Rest tonight. Tomorrow, I'll show you everything. Answer every question. But tonight, sleep. You're safe here, Emma. I swear it on whatever remains of my soul." The door closed softly behind him. Emma sat in the silence, staring at the wooden box on the bedside table where Margot had placed it, her wedding gift from a vampire king. Her new reality in a world she didn't understand. She picked up the box, feeling its weight, its mystery. The lock gleamed in the firelight, tempting her to break it open. But something in her heart whispered, "Not yet. Not until you're ready to face what it means." Emma set it down and curled up on the massive bed, still wearing her simple dress, the gold ring heavy on her finger. Outside, the moon hung full and bright over Thornwood Estate, and somewhere in the darkness, Nathaniel Thorne stood alone, wondering if he'd just made the greatest mistake of his immortal life, or finally found the one thing that could save him from it. Emma woke to sunlight streaming through windows she'd forgotten to cover. For a disoriented moment, she thought she was back in her cramped apartment, that the wedding and the vampire and the impossible confession had all been a fever dream brought on by exhaustion and grief. Then she saw the gold ring on her finger, felt the silk sheets beneath her hands, heard the absolute silence of a house too large to feel alive. She sat up slowly, her body aching from tension she'd carried through the night. The wooden box sat on the nightstand where she'd left it, its carved surface gleaming in the morning light. She touched it once, briefly, then pulled her hand away. Not yet. Something whispered in her mind. You'll know when. A soft knock came at the door. "Miss Emma? May I enter?" Margot's voice. Emma pulled a robe around herself. She'd slept in her clothes, too afraid to undress in this strange place. Yes. The older woman entered carrying a breakfast tray that smelled incredible. Fresh bread, butter, jam, coffee that made Emma's mouth water. "Good morning. I trust you slept?" "Barely." Emma took the tray gratefully. Where is Nathaniel?" "Master Nathaniel rests during daylight hours. Vampires don't sleep precisely, but the sun weakens us considerably. He'll join you this evening." Margot moved to the wardrobe, opening it to reveal dozens of dresses Emma hadn't noticed the night before. "In the meantime, I'm to show you the estate and introduce you to the household. The other vampires." "Yes, and the human staff. We employ both." Margot pulled out a simple day dress in deep green. "This should fit. Master Nathaniel is quite good at estimating sizes." The comment should have been creepy, but something in Margot's tone suggested long practice rather than anything sinister. Emma ate quickly, then dressed, marveling at how perfectly the clothes fit, as if they'd been made for her body specifically. When she emerged, Margot was waiting in the hallway. The estate has 63 rooms across 4 floors. The west wing is Master Nathaniel's private quarters. You may enter freely as his wife, but I'd recommend waiting for an invitation. The east wing houses the coven's chambers. The ground floor is public space, libraries, sitting rooms, the great hall. They walked through corridors that seemed to stretch forever, past paintings of stern-faced people in period clothing, past windows overlooking manicured gardens that shouldn't exist this late in autumn. "How many vampires live here?" Emma asked. 12 in the core coven, including Master Nathaniel. 23 others sworn to Housethorn, but residing elsewhere. And 42 human staff, some who know what we are, some who don't. How do you hide it? What you are. Margot smiled slightly. Carefully. We own the surrounding land for miles. The nearby town knows us as reclusive aristocrats. We're generous benefactors. We fund hospitals, schools, scholarships. People ask fewer questions when you improve their lives. They descended to the ground floor, entering a library that made Emma gasp. 3 stories of books, spiral staircases connecting the levels, a ceiling painted with constellations that seemed to move. Master Nathaniel's personal collection, Margot said. Over 50,000 volumes, some dating back to the 15th century. You're welcome to read anything you like. Emma ran her fingers along the spines, seeing titles in languages she didn't recognize. Did he read all of these? Most of them. Multiple times. When you have eternity, you find ways to fill it. They continued the tour, a music room with instruments that looked priceless, a ballroom that could hold 200 people, a greenhouse where flowers bloomed despite the season. And everywhere, Emma felt eyes watching, servants pausing in their work, shadows that seemed to move independently of their sources. They're curious, Margot explained. Master Nathaniel hasn't taken a bride in over 2 centuries. The last one... She trailed off. Emma stopped walking. What happened to the last one? She chose to leave. After the contracted year ended, she took her settlement and returned to her human life. Master Nathaniel honored the agreement, though it... Margot's expression softened. It hurt him deeply. He loved her, you see, but she couldn't love what he was. Emma's chest tightened. How many wives has he had? 3, over 300 years. The first was turned, became a vampire by choice. They had a century together before she was killed by vampire hunters. The second and third remained human. Both left when their time was complete. Margot looked at Emma directly. You're the fourth, and perhaps the most important. Why? Because the coven is fracturing. Rival factions challenge Master Nathaniel's authority. They say he's gone soft, that his mercy toward humans makes him weak. A human queen either proves his strength or confirms their accusations. The words settled like stones in Emma's stomach. So I'm a political tool. You're a wife. What you become beyond that is your choice. Margot gestured toward a set of doors. Come, it's time you met the others. The dining room was enormous, with a table that could seat 50. But only 5 vampires sat there now, engaged in quiet conversation that stopped the moment Emma entered. They were beautiful, all of them, inhumanly so. 2 men, 3 women, all with that same predatory grace Emma had seen in Nathaniel. Their eyes tracked her movement like cats watching prey. Everyone, Margot said formally, this is Lady Emma Thorne, Master Nathaniel's wife and your queen. The title sounded absurd. Emma was a waitress from Queens. She wasn't anyone's queen. One of the men stood, tall, with auburn hair and green eyes that sparkled with mischief. Ambrose Crane, my lady, second in command of the coven and Nathaniel's oldest friend. Welcome to our strange little family. He bowed with exaggerated courtesy, making one of the women snort. She was petite, with dark curls and warm brown eyes. Ignore him. I'm Serafina. I actually like humans, unlike some people here. The blonde woman from the wedding, Vivian, remained seated, her ice blue gaze cold. How touching. Another pet human for Nathaniel to coddle. I give her 3 months before she runs screaming. Vivian, Ambrose warned. What? It's true. Look at her. She's terrified. She has no idea what she's walked into. Vivian stood, moving with liquid grace. Tell me, Emma, do you know what your husband has done to earn his crown? The blood on his hands? The wars he's waged? That's enough. Nathaniel's voice cut through the room like a blade. Everyone turned. He stood in the doorway, somehow present despite the sunlight streaming through the windows. He looked paler than last night, his movements slightly slower, but his authority was absolute. Vivian, you will treat my wife with respect or you will leave this house. Am I clear? The blonde vampire's jaw tightened, but she nodded. Crystal, my lord. Nathaniel moved to Emma's side, not touching her but standing close enough that she felt his presence like a shield. Forgive the hostile welcome. Change makes some of us uncomfortable. Some of us remember the last time you brought a human bride home, Vivian said quietly. We remember how it ended, and we'd rather not watch you break again. Something flickered across Nathaniel's face. Old pain, quickly masked. Your concern is noted. Now leave us. I wish to speak with my wife privately. The vampires filed out, though Serafina paused to squeeze Emma's hand. It gets easier, she whispered. I promise. When they were alone, Nathaniel gestured to the table. Please, sit. You must have questions. Emma sank into a chair, her legs suddenly weak. Are you really 300 years old? 347. I was turned in 1676 in London during the plague years. He sat across from her, maintaining distance. I was dying. A vampire named Katerina offered me a choice, death or immortality. I chose to live. It's a choice I've questioned many times since. Why? Because immortality is lonely, Emma. Everyone you love dies. Everything you build crumbles. You watch the world change and change and change, and you remain frozen, a relic that refuses to fade. His amber eyes held hers. That's why I need a companion, someone to share the weight of eternity, or at least help carry it for a while. But why marry? Why not just hire someone? A sad smile. Because marriage is a choice, however coerced the circumstances. It grants you legal protection, financial security, and it makes you untouchable by vampire law. As my wife, no one can harm you without facing my wrath. Emma thought about Vivian's hostility. Not everyone seems happy about this arrangement. Vivian lost someone she loved to humans, vampire hunters who staked him while he slept. She's never forgiven your kind for it. But she'll come around, or she'll leave. I won't tolerate disrespect toward you. Even though I'm just human? Even though I'll die eventually while you all live forever? Nathaniel leaned forward, his expression intense. You're not just anything, Emma. You're my wife, my choice, and I protect what's mine." The possessiveness in his tone should have frightened her. Instead, it stirred something else, a strange warmth in her chest. Before she could analyze the feeling, Margot appeared in the doorway. "Sir, there's a situation. The town council is here. They're demanding to speak with you about the Blackwood matter." Nathaniel's expression darkened. "What about it?" "Apparently, another vampire has been feeding in the territory, unsanctioned. The humans are blaming House Thorne." "Of course they are." Nathaniel stood, then looked at Emma. "I have to handle this." "Margot, please, I'm coming with you," Emma said, surprising herself. Nathaniel blinked. "That's not necessary. If I'm your wife, your queen, then I should be present when you meet with the town leaders. Isn't that how this works?" Emma stood, her heart pounding. "Besides, I'm human. Maybe that'll help." Something shifted in Nathaniel's eyes. Respect, perhaps, or hope. "Very well, but stay close to me. If things turn hostile, you'll protect me, I know." Emma straightened her shoulders. "Let's go." The town council met them in the estate's formal receiving room. 5 men in suits, all wearing expressions that ranged from nervous to openly hostile. Emma recognized the mayor, a man named Peterson who used to come into Rosie's diner on Sundays. His eyes widened when he saw her. "Emma Hartley? What are you doing here?" "It's Emma Thorne now," Nathaniel said smoothly, his hand settling on the small of her back. "My wife as of last night. She'll be joining us for this discussion." Peterson's face cycled through shock, confusion, and something like pity. "Mr. Thorne, with all respect, there have been 3 attacks in town this week. People drained of blood, left in alleys. You promised this wouldn't happen if we allowed you to remain here. And I keep my promises." Nathaniel's voice was ice. "The attacks are not from my coven. We feed ethically, from willing donors or from blood banks. Whoever is hunting in your town is violating our treaty." "Then who?" another councilman demanded. "If not you, then who?" "A rival faction, most likely. One trying to frame House Thorne and turn the humans against us." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. "I'm handling it." "Handling it how? By marrying a local girl? What, you think that makes you one of us now?" The contempt in the man's voice made Emma's hands clench. She stepped forward before she could think better of it. "He married me to save my family from crushing debt," she said clearly. "Debt that human hospitals and human loan companies created. Nathaniel paid it without hesitation, asking nothing except that I stay for a year. He gave me a choice, more of a choice than the debt collectors ever did." Peterson softened slightly. "Emma, I heard about your father. I'm sorry, but you don't know what these creatures are capable of. I know that in the 2 days I've been here, I've been treated with more respect than I got in 19 years of human life," Emma interrupted. "I know that Nathaniel has rules, ethics, boundaries. Can you say the same for the people who prey on desperate families with impossible interest rates?" Silence fell. The councilmen exchanged glances. "The attacks will stop," Nathaniel said quietly. "I give you my word. I'll find whoever is responsible and handle them according to vampire law. But in return, I ask for patience. Don't let fear turn to violence. Too many innocents have died in those fires." Peterson nodded slowly. "1 week, Mr. Thorne. If the attacks continue, we'll have to take measures." "Understood." As the councilman filed out, Peterson paused beside Emma. "You sure about this girl? This life?" Emma looked at Nathaniel, at the ancient vampire who'd saved her family, who'd given her choices even in captivity, who'd stood beside her without demanding anything in return. "I'm sure I want to see where it leads," she said. Peterson sighed. "Then God be with you." When they were alone, Nathaniel turned to Emma, something like wonder in his expression. "You defended me, in front of humans who already fear what I am. Why? Because they were wrong. Whatever you are, you're not the monster they think." Emma met his amber eyes, and because no one else was going to say it, Nathaniel stepped closer, his hand coming up to touch her face, then stopping, hovering inches from her skin. "May I?" The fact that he asked permission made Emma's heart skip. "Yes." His fingers brushed her cheek, cool but gentle. "You're extraordinary, Emma Thorne. I chose better than I knew." "Don't make it weird," Emma said, but she was smiling. For the first time since arriving at Thornwood, she felt something other than fear. Not love, Not yet, but the beginning of trust. The first crack in the wall between captor and captive, monster and human, king and queen. That night, Nathaniel kept his promise. He showed Emma the estate's hidden spaces, the blood bank in the basement where donors came willingly, paid generously, the training rooms where young vampires learned control, the gardens where night-blooming flowers opened only after dark. "This is my world," he said as they walked beneath ancient oaks strung with lights. "Strange and dark and often brutal, but it's also beautiful in its way. I hope you'll come to see that." Emma looked up at the stars, the same stars she'd seen her whole life, but somehow brighter here, sharper. "I'm starting to." They walked in comfortable silence until they reached a fountain at the garden's heart. Nathaniel stopped, his expression suddenly vulnerable. "The box I gave you. Have you opened it yet?" "No. You said I'd know when the time was right." "And do you?" "No." Emma thought about it, about the fear slowly transforming into curiosity, about the way her heart beat faster when Nathaniel smiled, about the choice she'd made to defend him, to stand beside him. "Not yet," she said softly. "But soon, I think." Nathaniel nodded, and in his eyes she saw relief mixed with something deeper. "Then I'll wait. I've gotten very good at waiting." As they returned to the estate, Emma caught sight of someone watching from an upper window. Vivian, her expression unreadable. A reminder that not everyone welcomed her presence here. But Emma was done being afraid. She was the Vampire King's wife, his queen, however strange that sounded, and she was beginning to suspect that this marriage of convenience might become something else entirely, something real. The attack came 3 weeks after Emma's arrival at Thornwood, on a night when the moon hung blood-red in the sky. She woke to the sound of breaking glass and screaming, not human screaming, but something worse. The high-pitched shriek of vampires in combat, a sound that made her teeth ache and her skin crawl. Emma stumbled from bed, still in her nightgown, her heart hammering. Smoke drifted under her door, and when she touched the handle, it was warm. Fire. She yanked the door open to chaos. The corridor was filled with smoke and the clash of bodies moving too fast for human eyes to track. Vampires she didn't recognize fought with members of Nathaniel's coven, Ambrose wielding what looked like a silver sword, Seraphina moving like a dancer as she dodged attacks. "Emma!" Margot appeared through the smoke, her normally composed face twisted with fear. "We need to get you to the safe room, now." "Where's Nathaniel?" "Fighting. They came for him specifically. This is an assassination attempt." Margot grabbed Emma's arm, pulling her toward a hidden panel in the wall. "Lady Vivian's faction. They've allied with House Blackwood. If they kill Master Nathaniel, they can claim his territory." "Blackwood? The vampire who's been attacking the town?" "Yes. It was a setup from the beginning. Frame Master Nathaniel, turn the humans against him, then strike while he's vulnerable." Margot shoved Emma through the panel into a narrow passage. "This leads to the old wine cellar. Lock yourself in. Don't come out for anyone except—" An explosion rocked the mansion. The passage collapsed, separating Emma from Margot. She heard the older woman scream her name, then nothing but the roar of flames and the crash of falling timber. Emma ran. The passage was dark and suffocating, smoke filling her lungs. She could hear fighting above and around her, the war cries of vampires, the crackle of fire consuming 300-year-old wood. She burst out into the wine cellar, gasping for clean air. Stone walls, racks of ancient bottles, and a single exit leading to the gardens. Emma moved toward it, then froze. Voices, coming from outside, dragging him to the courtyard. "Blackwood wants him staked in front of his coven. Make an example." "What about the human wife?" "Probably dead in the fire. If not, we'll find her. She's leverage either way." Emma pressed against the wall, her mind racing. They had Nathaniel. They were going to kill him publicly, cruelly, to break the coven's spirit. And she was the only one who knew where they'd taken him. Her hands shook as she moved deeper into the cellar, looking for anything she could use as a weapon. That's when she saw it, sitting on a shelf near the back wall, covered in dust but unmistakable. The wooden box, her wedding gift. She'd left it in her room. How was it here? Emma lifted it, feeling the familiar weight, the carved thorns and roses under her fingers. The lock gleamed in the dim light, still sealed. "Something you'll understand when the time is right," Nathaniel had said. "You'll know the moment." "Please," Emma whispered to the box, to fate, to whatever power had brought her to this impossible place. "Please let this be the moment." She pressed the lock. It clicked open. Inside, nestled in black velvet, were three things: a silver dagger with a handle carved to match the box, a vial of dark red liquid, and a letter in Nathaniel's precise handwriting. Emma's hands trembled as she unfolded the letter. "My dearest Emma, if you're reading this, then I am in grave danger, and you have chosen to open this box rather than flee to safety. I cannot tell you how that choice humbles me. The dagger is made of consecrated silver, one of the few substances that can kill our kind permanently. The vial contains my blood, freely given. If you drink it, you will have strength, speed, and healing far beyond human capacity for approximately 1 hour. Enough time to fight or to run. This gift is freedom. Freedom to leave me to my fate and escape with your life, or freedom to fight beside me if you so choose. I have loved 3 women in 300 years. I loved them all imperfectly, always holding something back, always afraid. But you, Emma, from the moment you defended me before the town council, I knew you were different. Brave, true, stronger than I deserve. I am not asking you to save me. I am giving you the power to choose your own path, whatever that may be. If I never see you again, know this: marrying you was not a transaction. It was the first real choice I've made in a century. Yours, in whatever time remains, Nathaniel. Tears blurred Emma's vision. She looked at the vial of blood, dark as garnets, then at the dagger that could end a vampire's immortal life. Freedom. He'd given her freedom. The power to walk away, to return to her human life with money and safety and the knowledge that she'd survived something impossible. Or the power to fight. Emma thought about Jamie, safe at home because Nathaniel had paid their debt. About the way Nathaniel always asked permission before touching her. About 300 years of loneliness in his amber eyes. About the fact that somewhere in the past 3 weeks, she'd stopped thinking of him as her captor and started thinking of him as hers. "Damn it!" Emma whispered. Then she uncorked the vial and drank. The blood hit her system like lightning. Power flooded her veins, strength, speed, senses sharpening to supernatural clarity. She could hear heartbeats throughout the estate, could smell smoke and blood and the particular scent of the vampires hunting her. She had 1 hour. Emma grabbed the dagger and ran. The courtyard was lit by torches, casting dancing shadows across the assembled vampires. 30 of them at least, Vivienne's faction and their Blackwood allies. And in the center, chained to a stake with silver bonds that burned his skin, was Nathaniel. They'd beaten him. His face was bruised, his elegant clothes torn and bloodied, but his eyes were defiant, blazing with anger rather than fear. Lord Cassius Blackwood stood before him, a vampire who looked like he'd stepped from a medieval painting, all dark robes and cruel beauty. "Any last words, Thorn? Before we end your pathetic reign?" "Yes," Nathaniel said, his voice hoarse but steady. "You're making a mistake. My coven will hunt you to the ends of the earth for this. Your coven is scattered or dead, and the humans will cheer when they learn the merciful vampire king is gone." Cassius lifted a wooden stake, its point wickedly sharp. "Such a disappointment, Nathaniel. You could have been great. Instead, you fell in love with livestock." He raised the stake high. "Stop!" Every vampire turned as Emma burst from the mansion entrance. She moved with inhuman speed now, Nathaniel's blood lending her strength she'd never imagined. The silver dagger gleamed in her hand. Cassius laughed. "The little human wife, how touching! Come to watch your husband die. Come to make you regret touching him." Emma's voice was steady despite her racing heart. The blood gave her power, but she was still human underneath, still breakable. "Let him go, and I'll let you leave with your lives." The assembled vampires erupted in laughter. Vivienne stepped forward, her ice-blue eyes glittering. Brave words from a girl who married him for money. "Tell me, Emma, do you even love him, or is this just pride?" The question hit harder than Emma expected. Did she love him? After 3 weeks? It was insane, impossible. And yet, she looked at Nathaniel, at the fear in his eyes, not for himself, but for her. At the vampire who'd given her choices when he could have taken them away, who'd offered her freedom when he could have demanded obedience. "Yes," Emma said, the truth settling into her bones. "I love him, and you're not going to kill him." She moved. Nathaniel's blood made her fast, but the vampires were still faster. Emma managed to dodge the first attack, drove her dagger through the shoulder of the second. Silver burned vampire flesh. The attacker shrieked and fell back. But there were too many. Hands grabbed her, dragged her down. She fought like a wild thing, but human strength, even enhanced, couldn't match 30 vampires. Cassius wrenched the dagger from her grip. "Foolish girl, did you really think?" Thunder cracked across the courtyard. No, not thunder. The sound of the mansion's great doors slamming open, and through them came Ambrose, Seraphina, and 20 more members of Nathaniel's coven, bloodied but alive, weapons drawn. "Release our king," Ambrose snarled, his sword gleaming with fresh blood. "Or learn why House Thorn has ruled for 3 centuries. The battle that followed was chaos. Emma, still held by 2 vampires, watched in horror as the courtyard became a war zone. Silver flashed, blood flew, vampires moved too fast to follow. Seraphina fought her way to Emma, her fangs extended, eyes wild. "Get her to safety!" "Not without Nathaniel!" Emma screamed. Cassius still held the stake against Nathaniel's chest. "Call off your people, Thorn, or I drive this through your heart right now." "Do it," Nathaniel said quietly. "My death won't save you. My coven will tear you apart. Perhaps, but at least you'll be gone." Cassius pressed the point deeper, drawing blood. Emma's vision went red. The blood in her system surged, responding to her rage. She'd thought the power was fading, but it roared back stronger, fed by desperation and love. She tore free from her captors with strength that shouldn't be possible, grabbed the silver dagger from where Cassius had dropped it, and threw herself between the stake and Nathaniel's heart. The wooden point drove through her shoulder instead. Pain exploded white-hot through Emma's body. She screamed, her human flesh tearing around the stake, but she didn't move, didn't let Cassius push past her to reach Nathaniel. "Emma!" Nathaniel's voice was anguished. "No, God, no. Together," Emma gasped, blood running down her arm. "You said, we protect what's ours. Well, you're mine, and I'm not letting them take you." Cassius stared at her in shock. "You're insane. You're dying for a monster." "He's not a monster." Emma's vision was fading, but her grip on the dagger stayed firm. "He's my husband, and you're going to let him go." She drove the silver blade into Cassius's chest, not his heart. She couldn't reach it from this angle, but close enough. The vampire lord screamed, silver burning through his flesh, and staggered backward. The stake ripped free from Emma's shoulder. She collapsed, blood pouring from the wound. Everything happened at once. Ambrose beheaded the vampire holding Nathaniel's chains. Nathaniel tore free with a roar that shook the courtyard, his eyes gone completely black with rage. He moved like death incarnate, destroying everything between himself and Emma. By the time he reached her, Cassius and his followers were fleeing, Vivian with them, the battle lost. Nathaniel gathered Emma into his arms, his hands shaking. "You foolish, brave, impossible woman. What have you done?" "Saved you," Emma whispered. "Like you saved me. You're bleeding out. The wound," Nathaniel's voice cracked. "I can turn you, make you vampire. It's the only way to save your life." Emma's vision swam. She could feel her heartbeat slowing, her body shutting down. The choice he was offering settled over her like a weight. Become a vampire, live forever, or die human at 19. "Will it hurt?" she asked. "Yes, terribly, but you'll survive. We'll have eternity together." Nathaniel's amber eyes were wet with tears. She didn't know vampires could cry. "Please, Emma, please let me save you. I can't lose you, not like this. Not when I've just found you." Emma thought about Jamie, about her human life, small and safe, about growing old, having children, dying peacefully in her sleep someday. Then she thought about Nathaniel, alone for 300 years, about the way he looked at her like she was his entire world, about eternity spent with someone who'd given her freedom, even when it cost him everything. "Do it," she whispered. "Make me yours, really yours. Nathaniel's fangs extended. He bit into his own wrist, then pressed it to her mouth. "Drink, my love. Drink and live." Emma drank. His blood tasted like copper and lightning and forever. Her body convulsed as the vampire essence flooded her system, fighting the human mortality that was slipping away. The wound in her shoulder began to close. Her heartbeat steadied, then slowed to the measured pace of the undead. Her human senses sharpened to supernatural clarity. She could hear conversations in the mansion, smell blood from miles away, see every star in the sky with perfect detail. The transformation took hours. Nathaniel held her through all of it, whispering promises in languages older than English, stroking her hair as her human life burned away. When Emma finally opened her eyes, the world was different. Brighter, sharper, more. And Nathaniel's face above her was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. "How do you feel?" he asked softly. Emma sat up, marveling at the strength in her body, the power singing through her veins. "Like I could tear down mountains, like I could run forever." She looked at him. "Like I'm finally exactly where I'm supposed to be." Nathaniel pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. "I love you, Emma Thorne. I should have said it sooner. Should have told you the moment you defended me to those councilmen. But I was afraid." "Of what?" "That you'd think I was trying to manipulate you. That 300 years of loneliness had made me desperate enough to confuse gratitude for love." He pulled back to meet her eyes. "But watching you throw yourself between me and that stake, I knew. This is real. You are real. And I will spend every day of eternity proving I'm worthy of what you've given me." Emma kissed him then. Really kissed him, for the first time since their awkward wedding night. His lips were cool but gentle, his hands careful even in passion. The kiss tasted like blood and promise and forever. When they finally pulled apart, the sun was beginning to rise. Emma should have felt the weakness that plagued all vampires in daylight. Instead, she felt strong, whole. Ambrose appeared in the courtyard entrance, a knowing smile on his face. "The coven is assembled, my lord. They're asking to see their king and their queen." Nathaniel stood, helping Emma to her feet. She was still wearing her blood-stained nightgown, still looked like she'd fought a war. She'd never felt more powerful. Together, they walked into the mansion to face their people, king and queen, vampire and newborn, husband and wife, in truth. The battle was over, but their forever was just beginning. The first week of Emma's immortal life was harder than dying had been. Her body screamed for blood with a hunger that eclipsed any human need she'd ever known. The thirst consumed her, turning every heartbeat she heard into a siren call, every human scent into torture. She locked herself in her chambers, afraid of what she might do, while Nathaniel brought her donated blood in crystal glasses and taught her control. "It gets easier," he promised, holding her as she shook with need. "The first month is the worst, but you're stronger than you know, Emma. You threw yourself on a stake for me. You can survive this." She survived, barely. With Nathaniel's patient guidance and the support of the coven, even Serafina, who'd been turned only 50 years ago and remembered the agony, Emma learned to master the bloodlust rather than let it master her. By the second week, she could walk through the mansion without her fangs extending at every human servant's pulse. By the third, she managed her first feeding from a willing donor without losing control. But the hardest lesson came from an unexpected source. Vivienne returned. Emma found her in the garden one evening, standing beneath the oak trees strung with lights, her ice-blue eyes reflecting the moon. The blonde vampire who'd fled with Cassius during the battle, who'd tried to have Nathaniel killed. Emma's hand went to the dagger she now wore at her waist. "You have a lot of nerve coming back here. I came to see if the rumors were true." Vivienne turned, studying Emma with an unreadable expression. "That Nathaniel turned you. That the human girl is now one of us. I am. And if you're here to finish what Cassius started, I'm here to apologize." The words came out stiff, like they hurt to say. "I was wrong. About you. About what you meant to him." Emma's fangs receded slightly. "You tried to have him killed." "I tried to save him from what I thought was another heartbreak. Another human who'd use him and leave." Vivienne's expression cracked, revealing something raw beneath. "The woman I loved died because of humans. Vampire hunters who tracked her during daylight and burned her alive. I've hated your kind ever since. Couldn't understand why Nathaniel kept giving them chances, kept trying to build bridges. And now? Now I watched a human girl throw herself on a stake to save him. Watched you choose transformation over death because you couldn't bear to leave him. Vivian's voice was barely a whisper. That's not using him. That's love. Real love. The kind I thought only existed in stories. Emma studied the older vampire, seeing the grief beneath the ice. What happened to Cassius? The Vampire Council executed him 3 days ago. Attempting to assassinate a sitting lord is grounds for immediate death. His coven has been scattered. Vivian met Emma's eyes. I testified against him. Told the council I'd been wrong to support the coup. They've allowed me to return to House Thorn if... She swallowed hard. If you'll have me. Both of you. Before Emma could answer, Nathaniel appeared beside her, moving with that silent grace she was learning to match. Vivian, I wondered when you'd show your face. I'm sorry, Nathaniel. Truly. Vivian bowed her head. You've been a good lord, better than I deserved. I let my hatred blind me to that. Nathaniel was quiet for a long moment. Then, you were my friend once, before the hunters took Marcus from you. I'd like to have that friend back, if she still exists beneath the pain. Vivian's eyes shimmered with tears, proof that even centuries-old vampires could cry. She does, and she swears her loyalty to you and your queen, if you'll accept it. Nathaniel looked at Emma, deferring to her judgment. The gesture wasn't lost on her, or on Vivian, who'd witnessed it. Emma thought about the cruelty in Vivian's voice during that first meeting, about the assassination attempt, about how easy it would be to say no, to banish her. Then she thought about second chances, about how Nathaniel had given her one, about how love could grow in the strangest soil. Welcome home, Emma said quietly. But if you ever threaten my husband again, I'll show you exactly what this human-turned vampire can do. Vivian smiled, genuinely smiled, for the first time since Emma had met her. I wouldn't expect anything less, my queen. The renewal ceremony took place 6 months after Emma's transformation, on the anniversary of their first wedding. But this time, everything was different. The chapel was filled with people, not just vampires, but humans too. The town council, including Mayor Peterson, who'd slowly come to accept the alliance between his world and Nathaniel's. Members of the coven who'd fought beside them. And to Emma's tearful joy, Jamie, her little brother, now 17, staring wide-eyed at the supernatural world his sister inhabited. You're really okay? He'd whispered when he arrived, searching her face for signs of the monster he'd feared. I'm better than okay, Emma had promised. I'm happy, Jamie, really, truly happy. Now she stood before the altar in a gown of deep crimson, vampire queen colors, while Nathaniel waited in formal black, his amber eyes fixed on her like she was the only thing in existence. The officiant was different this time, Ambrose grinning as he cleared his throat. We're gathered tonight to witness something rare, not a marriage of convenience or politics, but a union of choice, of love freely given on both sides. Emma's hand found Nathaniel's. His fingers were cool, but steady. 6 months ago, Ambrose continued, these two strangers bound themselves together out of necessity. A debt paid, a life saved, a transaction that should have been cold and mercenary. Instead, they found something neither expected, something that transcends the differences between human and vampire, mortal and immortal. He looked at them with genuine warmth. Nathaniel, you've walked this earth for over 3 centuries. Do you take Emma as your wife again? Not because law demands it, but because your heart does? I do. Nathaniel's voice rang clear. I choose her. Today. Tomorrow. For all eternity. Emma, you were human when you first spoke these vows. You're vampire now, immortal and powerful. Do you take Nathaniel as your husband again? Not because debt compelled you, but because love does? Emma's throat was tight with emotion. I do. I choose him. Not because I have to, because I want to. Because I can't imagine forever without him. Nathaniel pulled something from his pocket, the wooden box, polished and gleaming. I gave you this once as a test, a way to see if you'd choose freedom or bondage. You opened it to save me, using the power I'd given you to fight rather than flee. He opened the lid now, revealing something new inside. The silver dagger was gone, replaced by a necklace, a pendant carved to match the box, thorns and roses intertwined, with a blood-red ruby at its center. "This is my heart," Nathaniel said softly, "given freely, worn close to yours. A gift with no test, no condition, just love." He fastened it around her neck. Emma touched the pendant, feeling its weight settle against her chest. "And I have something for you," she said. From her own pocket, she drew a ring, silver, engraved with words in Latin she'd learned to read in her 6 months as a vampire. "Vinculum aeternum," eternal bond. "When you gave me that first ring, it was a symbol of obligation," Emma said. "This one is different. This one I chose myself. This one means I'm yours, because I want to be." She slid it onto his finger, and Nathaniel's composure finally cracked. He pulled her close, kissing her before Ambrose could even pronounce them married, and the chapel erupted in applause and laughter. When they finally pulled apart, both glowing with happiness, Ambrose wiped his eyes. "Well, I suppose that makes it official. Ladies and gentlemen, vampires and humans, I present to you Lord and Lady Thorne, truly wed, truly bonded, truly in love." The celebration lasted until dawn. Humans and vampires mingled, the barriers between their worlds softening with wine and music and shared joy. Jamie cornered Emma at one point, hugging her fiercely. "I was so scared when you left," he confessed. "Mom said you'd married some rich guy to pay off the debt, and I thought we'd never see you again." "I'm here," Emma promised, "and I always will be. I'm harder to lose now." "Because you're a vampire? Because I have something worth living for, someone." She looked across the room at Nathaniel, who was deep in conversation with Mayor Peterson, probably negotiating peace treaties and blood donation programs. "He saved us, Jamie. All of us. And I saved him back. That's how love works, I think. Taking turns being each other's hero." 20 years passed, then 50, then a century. Emma stood in the garden where she'd first defended Vivienne's return, watching the night-blooming flowers Nathaniel had planted for her, varieties that only existed because he'd commissioned botanists to create them, a living symbol of their love, engineered to thrive in darkness. She looked the same as she had at 19, would always look 19, but inside, she'd lived 100 lifetimes of experience. She'd watched Jamie grow old, marry, have children, watched those children have children of their own. Her human family aged and died while she remained frozen, and the grief never got easier. But Nathaniel was there through all of it, holding her as she wept, reminding her that love transcended death. She'd helped him expand the alliance between vampires and humans, not just in their territory, but across the continent. Houses that had once fed on humans indiscriminately now followed the Thorne model. Consent, compensation, coexistence. It wasn't perfect. Prejudice ran deep on both sides, but it was better. And she'd learned what it meant to be a queen. Not just Nathaniel's wife, but a leader in her own right. Vampires came to her for counsel now, valued her perspective as someone who'd been human and understood both worlds. Vivienne approached, moving silent as shadow. "Reminiscing?" "Always." Emma smiled. "How was the council meeting?" "Tedious, but productive. The Western houses have agreed to the new feeding protocols." Vivienne sat on the garden bench, looking more relaxed than Emma had ever seen her. "Nathaniel's negotiating the final details. He'll be done in an hour." They sat in comfortable silence, two vampires who'd once been enemies, now sisters in all but blood. "Can I ask you something?" Emma said finally. "Do you regret it? Immortality? After everything you've lost?" Vivienne was quiet for a long moment. "I regret losing Marcus. I'll regret that until true death takes me." "But immortality itself?" She looked at Emma. "No, because it gave me time to heal, time to find new purpose, time to watch you and Nathaniel build something beautiful. Some days that's enough." Emma understood. Some days the weight of forever was crushing, but other days when she woke in Nathaniel's arms, or walked through the garden he'd made for her, or saw humans and vampires working together to build a better world, immortality felt like the greatest gift imaginable. Nathaniel found her an hour later, exactly as Vivienne had predicted. He was still beautiful, still moved with that predatory grace, but there was a lightness to him now that hadn't existed when they'd met. A century of happiness had smoothed the edges of his ancient grief. "There you are," he said, pulling her close. "I was beginning to think you'd run off to terrorize the night. Just thinking about the past, about the girl who stepped off the train in a blue dress, terrified and alone. I remember her, brave even then, too brave for her own good." Nathaniel kissed her forehead. "Do you regret it? Any of it?" It was the same question she'd asked Vivienne, the same question she asked herself on hard nights when the weight of eternity pressed too heavy. "No," Emma said, and meant it. "I regret the circumstances that brought me here. My father's death, the debt. But this?" She touched the pendant at her throat, the symbol of Nathaniel's freely given heart. "This I chose, and I choose it again, every time." Nathaniel's smile was like sunrise. "I have something for you. Another gift. You give me gifts every week. This one is special, an anniversary present. 100 years since our first wedding." He pulled out a familiar wooden box. Emma's breath caught. "You kept it?" "Of course. It's part of our story." He opened the lid, revealing a new treasure inside. A small painting, exquisitely detailed, showing two figures in a garden. A man and a woman, vampire and newborn, holding each other as flowers bloomed around them. "It's us," Emma whispered. "The night after my transformation. I commissioned it from a vampire artist who can capture memories. This is how I see that moment. The night you chose to stay with me forever. The night our marriage stopped being about obligation and became about love." Emma traced the painting's frame, her eyes burning with tears she could no longer cry. "It's perfect. You're perfect." Nathaniel set the box aside and took both her hands. "I married you once for necessity, once for love. If I could, I'd marry you 1,000 times more, finding new ways to say the same truth. You are my heart, my queen, my Emma." "And you are my choice," Emma replied. "Not the choice I expected, not the one I planned for, but the one that saved me. In every way, a person can be saved." They kissed beneath the stars, two immortals who'd found each other in the strangest circumstances and built a love that would outlast empires. Somewhere in the mansion, the coven gathered for their nightly council. Humans and vampires worked side by side, maintaining the peace that House Thorne had cultivated for a century. The town beyond the estate gates slept soundly, protected by the alliance Emma and Nathaniel had forged. And in the garden, beneath flowers that bloomed only in darkness, a vampire king held his queen and thanked whatever force had brought them together. Emma Hartley had arrived at Thornwood expecting chains. She'd found freedom instead. The freedom to choose her own destiny, to love who she wanted, to become something more than she'd ever imagined. She'd been forced to marry a monster and discovered he was a man. She'd been turned into a vampire and found her humanity deepened rather than lost. She'd been bought with money and had given her heart freely in return. The wooden box sat open beside them, its lock broken forever, because some gifts were meant to be opened, some choices were meant to be made, and some loves were worth dying for, worth transforming for, worth spending eternity building and nurturing and protecting. "What are you thinking?" Nathaniel asked, his fingers gentle on her face. Emma smiled, leaning into his touch. "That I'd do it all again. The fear, the uncertainty, the transformation, all of it, just to end up here, with you, even knowing what it would cost, especially knowing, because the cost was my old life, and what I got in return was everything." She pulled him close, her voice fierce and certain. "You gave me a box with freedom inside, but the real gift was teaching me that some chains, the ones we choose, the ones we forge from love, aren't chains at all. They're wings." Nathaniel held her tighter, and in the garden of impossible flowers, beneath stars that would shine for another 1,000 years, two souls who'd found each other across the vast gulf between human and vampire, mortal and immortal, debt and destiny, finally understood the truth. Love was always a choice, and they'd choose each other forever.